Okay.
Aaron, welcome to the podcast. We're glad you're here.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
Yeah, it's really cool to have you in the studio in this really cool place.
It's a really cool truck.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it? It's
shred.
We're in the back of a shred truck of all things. Who would have guessed it? But
yeah.
So you're doing some interesting things in the world. So
I
wanted to say congratulations on the Impact Award this morning.
Thanks.
So you were awarded by the association for your Annex product.
Yep.
So tell me a
Annex.com.
little bit about Annex before we go into O'Neil and all other parts of the world. Tell me about Annex. What's Annex? What's Annex all about?
It's a playground. It's a place to kind of push and see what we can do in this industry, and see what we can do for consumers. I mean, there's a lot of different aspects, but mostly it's we're working on it and we're listening to people and we're tuning it to what they need for their business. But aside from that, the industry has not changed in 30 plus years. The consumer has changed a lot. You look at how consumers buy, what consumers want from customer service. These are all problems we can solve through software, but they're huge challenges. So, when I look at Annex, I say, how do we take the Record Center's services and package them for someone who's 22 years old? Gen Z's first digital native generation, they're totally different. Right? They don't know a life without cell phones, and their buying is different. What they want from a service provider is different. They will not get on a phone call. They'll text. Yep. They will never negotiate. They're going to buy their car on Amazon or online now. So when you're talking about trying to get this person to purchase from a record center, you've got to package your products so that in the way that they want to purchase them. So a lot of Annex is targeting that 22-year-old, saying they're coming out of college into the office. They have their ramp credit card. They have their budget. If they're going to spend money with you, you have to make your services as accessible as Amazon. And so how are you going to package that? And I think the message is resonating. And when you look at the data of 55% of these kids will use DoorDash once a month, they'll pay $40 to have their burrito delivered.
Right.
So now they have the boss's card and they have their budget. What are they going to pay to have boxes picked up and shredded? They value services.
Okay,
they're willing to pay for those, but you have to package them the right way.
Right. So anyone who hasn't been part of the industry for a while, let's step back a little bit because you're explaining the philosophy, but what's the product? What's the actual, what is Annex?
Oh, it's e-commerce marketplace, B2B e-commerce.
Okay.
So think Amazon, but for our industry, right?
But for services. So Amazon for services, and so they can come to Annex.
Yeah.
And so how I hear it, it's like a two-sided market. You're providing the platform for buyers to buy, but you're also providing a front door for sellers to sell.
Right. Yeah. Anyone can use this. You don't have to be an O'Neil customer to use this. You create your own profile as a record center or shredding company. You set your own pricing. You set your service area. A consumer can come, shop, look who's in their area, who do I want to work with, purchase. And when that purchase happens, that money is actually held, and then the customer gets a work order, and they are going to probably manually enter their data into their data system and go pick up boxes.
So how does it work? That makes sense logically if it's say a purge. Let's go into the shredding side. It logically makes sense. I want to come in. I've got 72 boxes. I want to do a purge. And then I'm presuming Annex processes the payment. It sends the work order back into the seller of services.
Yeah.
Right? And then they go deal with that. How does it work, say, for shredding companies, say, on a recurring services basis? Because a lot of times people don't know quite what they need. They don't want to do a phone call, but what are they doing? How do they use Annex to make that happen?
We're going to see some cool development in this year, but I would say there's two different ways to utilize the platform. One, if you're in our cloud and you're using our cloud product, everything's integrated, right? It's integrated right into O'Neil Stratus in our cloud. And so when you show up and you change something on the scanner, it changes and a new invoice is issued. All of that is streamlined. So it fits perfect into your operation and your guys don't have to learn something new, right? Whether the order comes in through a phone call or comes in through Annex, it's the same workflow. So that's for operations really key. That's your guy doesn't have to think. If you're not on Stratus, then it's a very manual process, and we're going to code and build out to make it to where you don't have to use Stratus and you can still utilize this platform, and we're going to solve those. But anytime you're building a marketplace, you have to get supply on, and then you have to start driving consumers. So when I started studying marketplaces, this was actually a very common way for a marketplace to start off. And the benefit is not just getting momentum. The benefit is also you're learning and getting feedback from people as you're building the product. And so you end up with the product that people actually need, instead of something going into developers and they think this is how the industry works. And so they design this and it doesn't work for anybody, right? So this is really the feedback loop time of listening to consumers, what works, what doesn't work, and then iterating, right? But
got it. Okay. So Annex comes out of O'Neil Software. So so Annex is the product you won the award for this morning.
Yeah.
Annex is a marketplace in development that's coming out of your unique perspective on the industry and how the buyer is going to evolve in the future.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And design something and saying, let's look at consumer preference and let's build out 100% for the consumer preference. And how do people want to purchase? How do they want to work with the service provider? We're going to educate the industry, and then we're going to compromise, and we're going to have it pulled in different directions because people say we like this, we don't like that. But the real thing is the Record Center is in control every step of the way. They own the contract, they own the customer, they set their pricing, and with a marketplace, you want high volume, low transaction fees.
Right.
So Annex actually wants to make less transactions, and they want more people on it. And having the backbone of O'Neil with customers in 103 countries means we're going to be able to create a hopefully one day, is high volume and low prices for people. And then, people ask, well, what about being a race to the bottom? And the reason why you make O'Neil or Annex would get a percentage of whatever someone's charging is because that way Annex is incentivized to keep prices higher. And so, it's not going to be something that meets the needs of every single customer. It's never going to replace your salesman. But you only have one way to sell your goods right now as a record center or a shredder. You have a salesman. And that whether you have a lead that comes in from a lead gen company or something else from your website, that's your single channel. It's got to be manually processed. Right. Annex is now a new channel. So when you look at DoorDash on average, DoorDash raises the profitability of a restaurant by 10%. If I can raise the profitability of a shredding company or a record center by 10%, this is going to be wildly successful, right?
Yeah, that's really cool.
Right. Now, it also took about 15, 20 years for DoorDash to get there,
right.
but that's the potential of what we're building.
Okay. So let's jump then from Annex to O'Neil.
Yeah.
Because O'Neil is in an evolving marketplace.
Yeah.
Right. You've got customers all over the world, but the industry continues to change and evolve. Yeah. And if you're creating these marketplaces on the front end, what are you doing on the back end in O'Neil? So give me a sense of where you're going with O'Neil right now.
Yeah, when I came into O'Neil, we had 11 developers. We now have 18, 19 developers. So we've really increased our staff. We also, we're rebuilding our product. So, it's one thing coming to a company during COVID. It's something else coming in, you've got a ton of technical debt, right? So over 5 years, we're finally out of all of that technical debt. And so it's kind of like getting 9 new developers back. It's you worked off that debt. Now you have bandwidth. But we really wanted to finish Stratus and not rush it. And so everything we did, whether it's rebuilding the reporting engine or the imaging, we took the time to do it the way we wanted.
So Stratus, just so that if somebody doesn't know who you are, Stratus is your cloud-based product?
It's our operating system for a record center shredder. It's our flagship product. It is designed for the cloud. It's web-based, but one of the decisions I made is that you can deploy it on premise.
Okay. So you can on-prem with it.
had worked in the hardware industry, and I understand there's use cases for hardware,
Yep.
and more so, it's business owners should be able to make the decisions that are best for them. And sometimes it's going to be on premise, sometimes it's going to be in the cloud. My job is to build software. It's not to tell people where to put their software, right? And in this industry, you've got a lot of unique use cases for the software, and so it's a way of giving the consumer more freedom over their data and over their system. Is saying where you deploy it and how you host it. Now, with that, I know we're going to talk about AI, but with that, and especially with AI coming, your technology needs are going to change over the next decade, right? And sometimes that means people are going from cloud to on-premise. Sometimes that's hybrid. Sometimes that's a cloud-first policy that we're seeing a lot. So you need a software product that has that flexibility to where you're able to make those changes, and it doesn't affect your operations. It doesn't affect your other software products. And that's a lot of what I'm talking to customers about right now is getting ready for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yesterday at the executive luncheon, you waxed eloquent about AI.
Okay.
And let's just hit that a little bit because I think it's an interesting connection to how you're preparing O'Neil Software to be eligible to interact with that coming reality. I mean, it's coming at us pretty quickly. So you went to a program at MIT. Was essentially the nature of your talk, but it wasn't the nature of your talk, but it was sort of the premise of your talk. You went to this AI thing. So tell me a little bit about what came out of that experience. Without having to replay your talk from yesterday, but what are some of the biggest ahas? Because it's not like you're some you're in plumbing, you're in software, so. Right. You're already at the cutting edge of where technology's going, and you're thinking about this because you're building marketplaces and you're building better software to support clients. But what's really grabbing your attention about the evolution of AI and how it's going to affect us?
Okay. Well, I'd start off by saying when I came into O'Neil, I asked the current CEO, David Holt, who was the original developer, came out of Microsoft, brilliant guy. And I asked him, I said, what is O'Neil? Is this warehousing? Is this information management? Is this, I don't get it. And he said, O'Neil is neither. He said, O'Neil is a technology company. We're a technology company in the records management space. And so that's something I've latched onto and said, what we do is we use technology to improve someone's business. So we innovate on behalf of our customers.
Right.
So when we see a change in technology, we move. So 15 years ago, when we saw the change to cloud, we didn't know it was going to be a huge benefit in AI. What we knew was technology is going in this way. We're going to bring our customers in this way. So, as technology changes, we're going to be the first ones to turn our head and go and explore it, right? Because that's the DNA of the company. So when I saw this this opportunity become available for executives to go to AI Academy at MIT in person for a couple of weeks, it was just a no-brainer, right? Like I need to understand this because it's going to affect my customer's business.
Correct.
And people are asking, like, how will this affect my business, right? And I don't want to get pushed around by all of the noise that you hear about AI. I want to be able to cut straight to the source. And MIT was incredible, right? They did not disappoint at all. I had one of the board members of Amazon come and lecture. You had people who were working at GPT. You had people who had sold self-driving car companies. It was an incredible experience, but it was a way of getting straight to the truth of what is this technology, what can it do, what should I expect. I would say the big thing that surprised me about it was how fast this technology is moving and how it really doesn't have the constraints that other technologies have had.
Right.
The speed of development is uncertain, right? So the big thing for my customers and for me is to prepare for that change. The best thing you can do is clean up your data, think about how is your data connected, and then are you hybrid or are you cloud policy? But you're probably not going to be on premise, right? And then looking at our own product, we host our product in AWS, which has said that they will be the compute platform for AI. So there's already tools up there to integrate AI into your product. It's really just finding the right use case for it.
Right. So as you
Yeah.
Because you live in a particular industry, right?
Yeah.
You're a technology company for this industry.
Right.
Where do you see the potential use case for AI? And AI to me is
Yeah.
AIs. It's not AI. It's just a general bucket we throw
Yeah.
everything in because there's all kinds of really innovative stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
And I mean, stuff drops every day. I watch Product
Yeah.
Hunt and
Yeah.
all these different platforms, and 20 new products drop
Yeah.
every day, if
Right.
not
Oh, yeah.
hundreds. Many connected to AI, but how do you particularly see
Yeah.
the use case for AI in terms of the bigger picture that
Yeah.
O'Neil addresses?
Yeah.
I'm not talking
Right,
about
right. I
like
get it. Yeah, yeah,
assistants
yeah.
that you upload and try and get some new
Yeah.
lead gen opportunities.
Right,
I'm
right.
talking about how does it connect to the backbone of this thing?
That's definitely the $1 million question, right?
I know.
I mean, well,
you're
well,
thinking about it.
I'm definitely thinking about like all the time. And we're evaluating it, and I'm looking into it. But who's making money on AI right now? Nobody. The only people making any money on AI are the ones doing compute or the ones selling hardware.
Right.
And so right now it's not to the place where it's ready to be commercialized.
Right.
And where I'm coming back and saying right now as a business owner, think through your system, your data, how do things connect? Is it clean? And actually on that note, one of the things that they started off the MIT course was talking about saying, think about what data are you not collecting that you should start collecting because it's now useful, right? So the real thing right now is let the big guys in Silicon Valley burn through the big cash building this technology and focus on what you can do, which is cleaning up your data, and then start playing with the tools. Start playing with chat, start playing with image generation, start playing with operator, and start getting a feel for what the technology can actually do for you. When I look at the industry and think, what can it do to improve the industry? The first thing is, what are my customers asking for, right? My customers, if they're asking for, example, better imaging, right? Then I'm going to look at AI and say, well, how can AI improve their imaging experience or routing or reporting? So but you don't want to get the cart ahead of the horse, right? You want to keep the focus on creating value for customers. This is just one technology that can do that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put fluff in the software for the sake of fluff,
you
right?
don't, but that's the thing is now when you're building out, especially because I think where I said, the back end of your system is the data that drives your customers' businesses, right? It's that data set. And a lot of people have crappy data. Frankly, there's a lot of bad data.
Well, what's great with O'Neil is that it's very structured data.
Yeah.
They were really good at protecting their product, and so you have very good structured data, and you have very good historical data, right, on how things have moved. So with anything with AI, you need a large amount of complex data, and so right now it's okay. How can we take this and bring out new insight?
Yes.
I'm a little bit of a contrarian. So for me, it's reporting would be a gray area where people would love to see more data on their current customers. If you could take AI and look at the historical data, but also use that same AI to look at that company and what they're doing in the future, now you really have a picture of that you can make decisions based upon and say, hey, they're opening an office here or they're doing this here. Now I've got better ideas. So it is something where AI is going to switch how we think about some of these things. And the more you use AI, the more you realize this is not human intelligence. This is a different kind of intelligence. And so you really have to play with it to start understanding where the value is. I would say it's something where we don't currently have a plan to bring AI in. We're just experimenting with it.
Right, but I think that's the important piece. Is
Yeah.
you got to make sure you have the, and often in software it's called technical debt, right?
Right.
And you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah.
But technical debt, if you're not at least making sure your data structure is something that can be accessed by AI systems and tools and APIs and stuff like that, it's going to be hard to access that. And when you got weirdly closed systems and you can't get to it,
Right.
like you can't leverage AI very effectively, or else I was talking to a guy last week, and he's double not in this industry, but he's double data dumping.
Okay.
Right? His software is doing data, and then he's exporting, putting in things like Airtable, just so he has access via AI to go into Airtable to actually do something with his data, because he can't in his software system.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's such an important part, and I think that's the thing that I've been trying to say to people is it's not ready for prime time yet. Like, you're not turning it on.
Right.
But you got to be comfortable with it. There was a study I read recently.
You do, and you have to understand that at any moment it could be ready. Right. At any moment something could get updated, and you're like, oh, holy smokes. I think that was one of the surprising things at MIT, was learning the people who really know what's going on are the ones who are the engineers at these big companies who have the resources. But even the professors were like, we woke up and we were like, wow, I can't believe it can do this today.
I
right?
know.
So you know,
astounding. It really is astounding what is happening and how effective it is. So what excites you about the next 5 years? Like when you think about your unique role as CEO of O'Neil and Annex, and what you're seeing in the industry, in this specific industry, what really excites you right now? What gets you up in the morning?
I get to work with a lot of brilliant people with extremely high expectations, and that's my customers and my O'Neil staff, right? And so they push me harder. And it's they push on me, and so I go and do things like MIT, right? I wouldn't do that if I wasn't getting pushed on it, and have such like it's an incredible place for me to be is to be able to come into O'Neil, and I get excited for connecting with customers and talking through things. I always get nervous about change because no one likes change, and it's like AI. You're always like, is this good? Is this bad? And we start looking at things like e-commerce. Is this good or bad for my business? And then what I've always realized is, at that moment, I have to go and do the market research. Right. And the more I do market research, the more I actually have information instead of just my instincts to make decisions on. I think that the industry will be completely different in 5 years. I think what we're looking at with AI is really it's the fourth industrial revolution. And what AI is going to do is it's going to create a lot of prosperity for people, but specifically business owners. And so the real key, and what I was trying to talk on yesterday, was really how do you evaluate this? How do you know what's happening? Because you're going to have people and vendors trying to sell you things on this, and you're going to have to kind of sort through and understand how are you making investments right now? And I look at it and from an investment perspective, and I think I love this William Meaney quote where he says CEO's job is capital allocation. Right. And it's how am I investing today? and so I look at it and think, how am I investing for my customers? How am I investing for my staff? Right. And so technology is going to be an incredible place for that. I don't think it's going to replace software companies. I think that that's kind of like saying paper's going away. It's like saying software's going away. But I think it's going to amplify what people can do and how much product that we can produce for people. So I see a ton of opportunity, I'm pretty excited about it. But
very cool.
But
it's been exciting talking to you because I've for knowing you for the last number of years since you took over leadership of O'Neil, it's been really fun to watch you sort of brainstorm and come to market with a really, with continually pushing yourself forward. And it's been exciting to see. So congratulations, on your award yesterday, your Impact Award, and for doing really cool things in the industry and pushing us forward. So thank you.
Well, we're going to keep innovating on behalf of our customers, right? And we're going to keep customers buy O'Neil because they want best of breed and they expect innovation, and we have this history of innovation. So, anytime I do get to talk to Tim O'Neil, the founder, and his wife about when they started the company, and Tim brought software into the industry, and they would go out to a warehouse and tell the warehouse, "Hey, you should be running this on a computer," and they were like, "We're never going to run this on a computer," and then eventually you do run it on a computer, and then Tim would tell me, and then we brought out this, and so someone said, "I'll never use that." and now they use it. And so it's that same cycle. I mean, it's almost kind of funny where people are like, no, we won't use e-commerce, and then they're in 5 years we're gonna see e-commerce throughout the industry. We're gonna see some really cool things, and I think the coolest thing that we're gonna see is we're gonna see the entire industry re-arc, because we're going to make it like the 90s again. And I get that question, how do you make it like the 90s? In the 90s, my company was booming. We were serving customers. This was amazing. Well, in the 90s, you had the latest technology, right? and also you were aligned with the consumer.
Yeah.
And so when we're going to realign with the consumer's spending habits and the consumer's expectations, what you're going to see is you're going to see a higher volume of people working with a record center. And the number one problem we have as an industry is that people don't know that we exist. And what Annex and what O'Neil, what we're trying to do is make the industry a little sexy again, and get it in front of the right consumer the right way. And when we realign, I think you're going to see like with Uber was a great example of. Uber didn't so much put too many taxi companies out of business. What Uber did was it's made it more accessible for people to take a taxi ride, so more people took more rides.
Right.
And what we've done as an industry is we've put up too many barriers to working with a record center or a shredder. You have to call them within 9 to 5. You have to hope they pick up. You have to talk to the salesman. It's 2 weeks later. Then your boxes are picked up 3 weeks later. That doesn't happen anywhere else. Right. And so what we're going to be able to do with the technology is address the consumer, address the way that they want. We're going to listen to all of our record centers and build solutions for them. And what I believe you're going to see is you're going to see the Uber effect of more people are going to use record center services because we offer valid services, right? People need ITAD, people need shredding, people need storage. They go to a self-storage unit because it's just easier. Right.
Yep.
And so I'm definitely very optimistic about 5 years, and I think that the people who are in the industry, one of the key things that I talked about at my speech yesterday was sometimes someone else innovates and invents something that affects your business. And you look at John Rockefeller, who owned Standard Oil, and at that time the automobile was invented. Look what it did to his business.
Yeah. No,
right?
It's really cool.
And the refrigerator, look what it did to Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
What we're going to see is AI and technology. What it's going to do to a record center and shred company is the same thing that cars did to Standard Oil. It's going to create exceptional value.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, brother, it's been
cool.
It's been lovely talking to you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being a leader in the industry, and appreciate you immensely.
Yeah. Likewise, Tom. I always appreciate your encouragement and your time. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.